Okay, everybody, so this is my review of Nine Perfect Strangers Episode 6, Motherlode. This was written by Jessica Scharzer and Jonathan Levine, and like every episode, it's directed by Jonathan Levine. So this episode actually starts with a disclaimer warning about really sensitive content that has to do with mental health issues and suicide. So going to this review, we're going to be talking about a lot of heavy stuff, so just a warning. And, when I saw that, as a viewer, I got scared that meant something was going to happen with Tony, because the last episode said he didn't know if he'd make it through the week, so that really kind of scared me just going into it. You always kind of, your head starts to ravel like, oh, where are they going with this? But let's break down why they gave that warning and what really went on here. So it opens with Masha here having a temporary break in her perfectionist ways, eating some of this birthday cake. What she is imagining in her head is her as a little girl eating a cake. So it's cool they do this because it's brought up later by Delilah to her, and that Delilah saw her, and that there's this little girl inside that Masha still suppresses. As much of a free spirit Masha is, she suppresses her inner child in a lot of ways, and that's by suppressing and giving herself things that feel good and trying to be almost too perfectionist, and it's kind of showing that flaw a bit, which I thought was effective. But what we see in this episode compared to the last episode is all about building the relationships between everybody and really making them close. Where this, we knew the dose was going to go even higher, but it's really an episode about now really getting to the core of everyone's problems and really facing head on their traumas, where it wasn't as intense, let's say, with like a Francis or a Lars this episode with that, and it's really the Marconi family where we're going to see the intensity and why there's a warning before this episode. So we get this odd sequence though with Francis, and she sees Paul, and he's this tiny version of himself singing, bragging about all the money she gave him and he got away with, and that it's not really his son, it's his cousin's son, and she ends up flushing him down the toilet. It was strange though, I don't know if it really hit humorously for me, but that's personal taste. Seeing him dance with the Q-tip, I was like, okay, I don't know. I didn't think it was that funny or great, to be honest. I think the show sometimes can be too obsessed with knowing it's Melissa McCarthy playing Francis, that she is known more for comedy, and that they kind of feel like maybe they have to write comedy in all of her scenes, where maybe just let her do her thing. I think it's too forced that way. But we see Lars is having nightmares himself about being called a slur here from the past that happened with schoolyard bullies, and Masha's just there watching him, which was creepy, but she's explaining that she knows what he's going through, and he'll explain to Zoe in the next scene that, she's controlling them through the dreams through drugs and audio and a bunch of things. So it's a little confusing, but that's kind of the gist of it. And the point of that scene, though, really is Masha giving him this camera, which is on the phone, that's not connected to Instagram. It's like, this is your chance to be the one who tells the world, like giving him this like pump up, like, hey, document all this now because stuff's going to get crazy and you can get some credit here. It's kind of that kind of pull, which is interesting. And it's going to be interesting where Lars goes with this and how far he'll go even with Masha in documenting all this. So where we get this big twist is after the scene where we learn they're upping everyone's dose, but Masha makes clear this time it's with consent, that they don't have to take it, but she knows they're going to, right? Because, again, these are people all struggling, and they're kind of all on board right now. But Carmel goes to Masha privately because she's the one resisting to that a bit. She's worried, like we hear in the episode, that if she sees her ex, she's not going to have the same reaction that Francis did. She'll literally stab that person if she hallucinates her ex, right? Because she stabbed him with a fork before. So what the twist is here is that when she sees Masha, we learn the big twist here from Masha, her saying to Carmel, I know why you came here. You came to this retreat because I had an affair with your husband. So this is a game changer. What I like about it being the character of Carmel, that is the one we learn this twist about, is that she's the most dangerous already. She's already kind of been developed that way, where she could break any moment, and you could see the fear in Masha's eyes even around Carmel, like, are you trying to kill me? And she's addressing that maybe you're the one threatening me. Now, Regina Hall as Carmel has just blown me away in this performance. That continues. It's a complete performance that's fully deep into the character here. She is Carmel. It's incredible. You see it all on her face, too. And she's like, I came here to know you, to see what he saw in you, and that you were the catalyst to all this. But, she says, we're in love. I came here to study you in the hopes of becoming you, and then he might want me back. So it's really sad. It's hard to hear. But she's kind of alluding to, like, well, if you knew this, Masha, why did you even accept me here? And she's saying it's to heal her and help her, and that she can trust her, and, she's like, I would never hurt you. So we know Masha's a liar, her character, and really good characters like Masha types lie a lot. You have to remember that. And they put this creepy music behind her purposely to kind of subconsciously remind us that you can't trust this woman, and her hugging Carmel like it's going to be okay, I'm going to take care of you. Something's going to split there. I'm still making a big prediction now that Carmel's going to be the undoing of Masha at some point, especially because they keep bringing up that if she was to see a hallucination of her ex, she might actually hurt somebody with a fork. I think it will actually be Masha. That's my prediction. I haven't read the book, so again, no book spoilers anywhere, please. But I can also say, you can put into, who's the man who shot Masha with the white eyeball? That might be Carmel's ex-husband. It would make sense. So we'll see. And we'll have to learn more about, again, whoever this man is that shot Masha, the why. Now, what I liked about the directing a lot this episode is Levine has proven that he is very good at directing scenes that make you feel like you are on a high dosage of psychedelics. And that really hits here when everyone's sitting around in the retreat and Frances is just so out of it, and that's a tribute to the actors too, and she just walks outside when she shouldn't, and then Tony's got to follow her. I thought that whole scene was shot so well. The way he presents it's really effective in setting the mood and making you feel like what they're feeling. Now, where I'm saying I feel like the writers really want to give Melissa McCarthy a lot of humor to work with, I actually think it did actually work here, though, when she's in this moment with Tony, and he's about to kiss her, and she said, oh my God, he's going in. I thought that was actually pretty funny. And she's like, I said that out loud. So that was realistic too. That's something that would kind of happen in that kind of moment. You believe it, that's Frances and Tony and that kind of interaction. But it's also a very light scene when they finally kiss because it's setting up for, more of another dark monologue from Tony. But again, the darker second half that focuses on the Marconi family. But to that point about Tony here when he's talking about, you ever think about not going on? Now, this would have hit way harder to me when he goes on this speech to Frances, which actually ends up being a positive note at the end of what he says, but maybe not show us last episode that he had already mentioned this, that he was not sure if he was going to make another week and he did have these suicidal tendencies. Why show that last week if you're just going to have him kind of reveal that here? That might have hit hard if we found out that now, and then he reveals that, no, this place is saving me from that. Like he said, he's thinking about even taking her out to dinner, thinking about getting a dog, so he's healing. And what I like is that he acknowledges that, yeah, I know Masha's using us basically, and that it is this cult-like thing and he's drinking the Kool-Aid, but he's like, it's working, like he's in. So I thought that was a really well-written scene, except the point again of maybe last week they should have dropped that scene with him talking to Frances. I don't think it was necessary. So a random scene that happens this episode, we don't get much time anymore with Jessica Ben relationship, which is a little disappointing because again, I'm a huge Samara Weaving fan. So I thought this scene was really cool though, because it's the most horrifying scene we've seen yet in bringing the horror aspect, where she breaks the golden rule, Jessica, of being on psychedelics and looking in the mirror. Obviously that can make you have too many self-reflective thoughts, and she's somebody who has self-image issues, so of course she's going to look deeply, find something wrong with her, and she sees her nose fall off. Very horrifying, this scene. I thought it was interesting. You wish maybe they got more meat at this point, Jessica and Ben, but for the time they gave it, I did think it was effective and truly scary. So let's jump into the really heavy stuff here, and this is going to happen with the Marconis, and it starts because we're seeing the connection from last episode, where Masha says to Zoe, you are the key. So what she means by that is she's the key to her ultimate long-term plan about, again, having such heavy psychedelic experiences that you're literally hallucinating someone and getting to this alternate reality where you could actually recreate living with them, and that she's a believer you can keep pushing this. And Zoe's someone who is very sensitive to that she does see the hallucinations more than anybody in this show, and especially of Zach. And, I did really like how they shot this. Again, very disturbing, but the way they did it, where when Zoe's going in the woods and she doesn't even see it, but the audience sees it, with Zach hanging behind her, and then when she's talking to Zach and he appears in front of her, it perfectly set the mood seeing the hanging behind her, again, realizing how dreary this tragedy was for this family, but then it being her mom she's really talking to, but she thinks it's Zach. It's really effective how they shot all this, like I'm saying, how Levine's doing really good with these type of sequences that are very trippy. But you see that Napoleon sees Zach, and then Heather sees Zach, and this is a shared psychosis hallucination, which Masha explains later is just something that's so rare. So this is like a big win in Masha's book that this even happened. And what this episode does so well is it's showing you how messed up this is getting. But Masha, again, even though she can say she cares about them, that's the debate at the end of the day if she really does or not, and that she does really want to heal people, or is it just for her own self, goals here to be the healer? But does she really care about the people she's healing? Because she talks to people and treats them behind the scenes like lab rats. But I want to just give, again, standout scene here. I haven't talked about the actress much, and I should be talking about her more, as Asher Keedy here. There's just so many great actors and actors in the show, so I'm trying to give everyone their credit, but she stands out in this episode for me. And this moment, it's so heartbreaking. She's like, I want to know why. She says to Zach, he brings up the asthma medication and that there's a side effect of suicidal ideation. And he's like, you underline it. So it's confirming that she did underline it. She knew about it. And this is the reason for her guilt, that she feels like her son was killed because of her. And clearly in her storyline for the show, we've only seen, hints that she's got serious issues, but not to the extent of what's really beneath it all. And now we're seeing that, like, she suppressed this thought in her head that she has this guilt. So now it's coming out. What I also liked is what they're doing with Delilah a lot in this show. So like after Heather bugs out here and just like collapses, it's reminiscent of the collapse that we saw Delilah experienced of someone that was there before, which we'll learn later in the episode is, and we can assume this family, they're talking about the Connors, who she thinks is the ones threatening Masha, and that there was legal troubles from them, what happened, and that this isn't the first time Masha's tried this extreme thing, it seems like, with a family. So Delilah's getting like triggered here, and she's like, okay, this can't be happening again. But Delilah's reacting to it like a normal person would, that, these people need help. She might need to go to a hospital, but Masha's like, relax. Masha, again, her number one thing is getting what she needs, and that her plan will go fine. It's not the needs of others, even though she might try to appear that way. Because she even says to Zoe here, I'm sorry for this, but this need to happen. She had to have this memory come back. Because again, it is the ultimate thing she needs to see work in her test of like, am I finding this cure-all for these people suffering, and then I could, sell it to others. Now, I loved, the hardest I've laughed on the show yet actually happened to be when Frances is in the pool with everybody, and she just says, anyone else still wearing the shoes? I still have my shoes, and I thought Melissa McCarthy, of course, she's always great at comedic delivery, and this was just perfect. I laughed out loud at that. Now, I'll take a deep dive here and say that, and that's no pun intended here, but there's a lot of symbolism to me with this pool scene where, no one's really supposed to be swimming. And I look at this water and pool in the scene as like, that's Masha. That's what Masha's serving them, and her way as this pool, because Tony's resisting it because he knows it's bad, but then they convince him to go in and he likes it. All the ones in there we know are on Masha's vision right now, which Lars, Jessica, Ben, Francis, and Tony going in. Even though he resists a lot, now he's in. They're all in on it. But you see Carmel has her feet in the pool, not fully in, and this is exactly how we keep seeing Carmel, where she's back and forth with everything that's going on. You can't really read her, and Delilah's the one coming in to tell them to get out, which is what she's slowly been trying to do with this whole thing. And then that even though they feel like everything's going great, they're loving being in that pool, the reality of it is the people there are like, well, where's Heather and the Marconis? They're in urgent care. So this is the reality of the situation, what really happens if you go down and drink the Kool-Aid, as they say, and that would be the pool for me with Masha. That's how I kind of see it, but maybe I'm overthinking that. A line that confused me, and I don't have subtitles, unfortunately, on these screeners I get sent, so I'd love some help in the comments if someone can kind of verify what happened here, because I literally had my ear to the thing and I couldn't make out what Zach says to Zoe here when she goes back into the woods to talk to him, and he's like, I can only tell people what they already know. And he's like, I can tell you, and what I think he said is to her, you heard that you'll be okay. So is he talking about she overheard, Heather say that to him once, or is he saying you're hurt, you'll be okay, or you heard what I said before? I don't know. It's such an important line, but I literally could not make it out. So if someone can confirm that down below, that'd be great. So again, where we get to the nitty gritty here with the Marconis is that Napoleon's saying like, hey, I used to blame myself for this, and because of that, I fully expected Heather to leave me and also blame me, but he's like, now the shoe's on the other foot. So he's like, I'm a forgiving man, and I can't forgive this. That he's also blaming Heather, as she's already blaming herself about what happened to Zach. And the big key here is Masha saying to him, well, what do you want? And he's like, I just want my son back. And she's like, I can arrange that. So when we go to see now Heather with Napoleon and Masha at this fireplace, Heather's like, I killed my son. So we're in the mindset of Heather where she's blaming herself, and that Napoleon is blaming Heather, and it's terrible grief they have. And this is something that most people, like Napoleon saying, never resolve, and a marriage just splits over this. But this is where Masha is going to sound like cult leaders we know in the past, and she's talking about, you can be reunited with your son, and it's through psychedelics. And it makes sense that at first, Napoleon's really resistant to this because it does sound like ridiculous, and it's basically something you would hear like any drug cult would eventually pitch to get something like this. But over this convincing Masha does and how good she's convincing people and what she's selling, she's, by the end of this, seems like she convinces Heather, and that Napoleon probably will come that way, because again, at the end of the day, she knows, like she's saying, this is like unbearable grief for two people, and this is a way to face the trauma and do it together and heal. You know, if they're that desperate, why wouldn't they at that point? You know, and she knows that. That's why she picked these people. But important, again, Delilah sees this, and that will go to that scene with Yao where Delilah's like, you know, this is no good. I don't want to be complicit in this. This is going too far. We're gonna have the same incident like last time. But Yao's still on the fence here, and he still sees the vision of Masha, so it's causing even a divide between those two. But also an important line that was in this scene with Masha and the Marconis is that Masha says, Heather, I know pain and I also know healing. Put yourself in my hands. Don't try to give your son back. It's important because by the end of the episode, we get the big reveal that she lost her daughter to a car accident and that she still has that trauma flash. So she's not even fully, seems like, healed and faced her trauma herself. So that's interesting, but it's not the most exciting cliffhanger at this point. I don't know why. It just didn't hit for me. I just was like, oh, okay. So she has trauma, which we expected, but you know, it's something we've seen done a billion times with like a kid was hit by a car and that's something that they're hiding. Like, I feel like I've seen that a lot recently. But there's also this odd scene they did quickly with Francis and Carmel, and Francis says the worst thing you could say to someone like Carmel. Like, everyone seems to be improving, but I don't know why you don't. Like, why would you say that to Carmel? That was just strange and silly to say that, because that could just set her off. But yeah, I was still a little confused as to why Francis kind of said that, because it seemed like in that scene that Carmel was sounding actually better. So I was like, didn't make a lot of sense to me. Seemed a little convenient. You know, it's so strange though. Overall with this episode, I'm very conflicted about it. Like I said, there's a lot of patience needed last week because of relationship building, right? A lot of character work. Here, I was predicting that, you know, stuff was going to start hitting the fan. It sort of does, but it also sort of doesn't, if that makes sense. Especially the first half, and it's still going at a very slow pace. That we're already at episode 6, there's only 2 episodes left in a limited series, so I wish at the end of the day there was more entertainment value to be had here. That they do these great storylines and characters in a plot that moves a little quicker and gets you a little more hooked. Because right now, I'm into it, but, you know, I'm not blown away. And I'm not saying, there's nothing I can really even, like, pinpoint that I don't like about this episode. I think it all is pretty good. But there's nothing in it that I go, wow, like, this was amazing, and now I'm really hooked or feeling into it and connected. I do think these themes work, and there's tough things they're dealing with here that speak really well. I'm just saying that when you put like the coding on it, you know, put it also in a plot that's a little more moving, quicker, interesting, and keeping you invested in the show, where at the end of the day, I think it's just making itself as a show that we'll remember for being good with characters and relationships, but not the greatest, most interesting plot at the moment. But I'm going to give this one an 8.2, and that is for the, again, strong character work, themes, dealing with dark stuff really well, but just not feeling it entertainment wise. You know, I just feel like by this point we should be moving along a little quicker here. And again, it's tough because you have so many characters and you got to fill all these mouths, but some are just feeling underfed now. And in particular, Jessica and Ben, you know, I felt like maybe even the Tony Francis scenes this episode, they got so much time last week. Maybe there was just too much with them here, maybe too long. So, and some beats seem like they're repeating a bit. Like I said, with Tony mentioning again about thinking he might not make it another day. We already heard that last episode, so it was kind of retread. But let me know what you thought down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can. Please subscribe if you like what I do here. It helps me so much. And if you love what I do here, I'd appreciate if you decided to be a member. It helps me so much. It would just get my dream to come true, where I could do this full time one day and make more reviews for you guys, and you get exclusive perks as well. So check it out with that join button below. Please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter and Instagram for more of me, and I'll see you next time.